Greetings, students. I'm Professor Benavides, and I would like to go over the prefix of your book. This is Learning Java through Alice 3, 4th edition, an introduction to programming by To Bring Daly and Eileen Wrigley, or Wigley. Copyright 2018. Table of contents includes a getting started with Alice, moves on to Java in chapter 1, introduces variables in both of those languages, as well as input and output, conditionals, repetition statements, arrays, procedural methods, functional methods, classes and objects, and the book ends with a chapter on graphics. It does include an appendix, which goes over exception handling and the NetBeans debugger. So as far as acknowledgements are concerned, well, let's go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. She acknowledges the Alice software team from Carnegie Mellon University, as well as a few other important notes, such as the fact that she did get a grant from the National Science Foundation. And maybe you will notice that there is a heartful thanks to Bob Benavides, computer science professor at Collin College. About the authors, it is a mother and daughter team. So Dr. To Bring Daly is, the daughter of Eileen Wigley. Okay. The approach is that this book is designed for students wanting to learn fundamental programming concepts. No previous programming experience is required. Okay. So all of the software used in this text is available for download free. And I'll show you the links to get that stuff in just a minute. So in a nutshell, we're going to be using Alice and Java. Well, the first thing she does is she talks a little bit about Alice. It says that you can run it on Windows, Mac OS, and Linux. And she uses Alice as a real fast way to generate a graphical user environment. And then she transfers that, when I say she, I mean the author, To Bring, or the authors. She transfers that, or shows you how to transfer that into NetBeans so that you can manipulate it in Java code. So here we see, for example, an Alice project with some code on it, and below it, we see a NetBeans project with the code in a slightly different format. All of this will become more meaningful to you as time goes on. Right now, it's just important to understand that this book is about Alice and Java, and it uses Alice as a stepping stone to learning the Java programming language. So as the chapter breakdown is concerned, like I pretty much mentioned to you, the first chapter introduces you to Alice. The second one goes over Java in more details, and then all the other chapters pretty much blend both of those topics. So each chapter is divided into a content segment, a hands-on exercises, a summary, and review questions. You should work through the hand-on exercises in each chapter. The data files that you'll need, and then she introduces the word assignments, can be found at this link. So basically the idea is this. There's going to be something called exercises. In these exercises, she walks you through exactly what you need to do. So you learn about syntax and things like that. In the assignments at the end of each chapter, those are a little bit more open-ended, while she may provide you, with some idea as to how to construct it. It's a little bit more open-ended. So she recommends that you create an organizational structure for your files, such as you can create a folder called Learning Java through Alice, and inside of it you would have two folders, one for your assignments and one for your exercises. And then in each one you would specify the chapters. The reason I would recommend this to you is that you're going to be working on quite a few exercises and assignments, and saving your projects to this folder structure would be a good way to get organized and to find your work if you need to go back to it at a later point in time. I'll demonstrate how to do this in just a minute. Now, she does put a note here. This is her email address, you know, and she has that in different places. So as far as installing Java and NetBeans, this has to be the first thing that you do. And we're going to follow the instructions right out of her book, and I'm going to show you where that is in just a minute. So what is Java? Java is an object-oriented programming language. We'll be writing all of our Java code with NetBeans. So NetBeans is an IDE. It's what we use to write our Java code. So NetBeans is not the only environment for Java code, but it's the one that we'll be using for this text. You know, so there are quite a few other ones, but this is the one that we're going to be using. Okay. So you should download the NetBeans and Java SDK. That stands for the Software Development Kit Bundle. And this bundle will include everything that you will need to write and run your Java programs. So please follow the instructions, the install directions that are located on her website. After you install Java or the bundle, then you'll install Alice. And it has to be done in this sequence because Alice is written in Java, so it won't run properly unless you've done it in this sequence. So Alice 3 provides a 3D environment for manipulating objects using drag and drop code segments. The environment helps to provide a visual representation of abstract programming concepts like classes and objects. We'll define those in just a minute. So she asks you to follow the directions that are in her website. It's a lot better to put them in the website so in case something changes, she can just update the website. The last bit of software that you'll need to install is the ability to have NetBeans work with Alice. It's called the Alice plugin. So there's an Alice plugin that you will also need to download and add to the NetBeans environment. Follow the instructions in your book. Okay, so for right now, the only two things I want to show you, and that's the end of the prefix. The only thing I want to show you is maybe three things. I want to show you how to do that folder structure, and then I want to go ahead and show you her website so that you can get started on installing the software. Now remember, this software will work on a Mac, PC, or Linux. Okay, so let's talk about the folder structure. I'm not going to build it exactly like she recommends on here because it's kind of wordy. So let me just go ahead and minimize this, and I'm going to create that structure on the desktop. So let me go ahead and right mouse click on the desktop. I'm going to go to New and go to Folder, and I'm just going to call it Learning Java. And inside of here, I'm going to create two other folders. Right mouse click on here. We're going to go to New, Folder, and I'm going to call this Assignments. And then I'm going to right mouse click on here again and go and create another folder. And this one's going to be called Exercises. So inside of each one of these folders, we're going to specify the chapters. So what I'm going to do is, instead of typing in that big old file name or folder name that you wanted to, I'm going to double click on here And I'm just going to go ahead and say chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3. It's kind of easier that way. So I'll say I'll just say chapter 01. How's that? That'll make it a little bit easier. Let's do another one. Right mouse click hard, go to folder, new folder. And let's go ahead and pretend that I've done this for all 10 chapters. What I can do now is I can go ahead and select both of these with the control key, do a control C to copy this, move up one level by clicking on the up arrow here, and then I can move over to the assignments folder and then do a right mouse click and paste. When I do a right mouse click and paste here, that's going to paste those folders in there. I'll go ahead and create a real quick project just to show you how to save to a particular folder for demonstration purposes in just a minute. Okay, so that's how you create the folder structure. And here's the folder that I created. Drilling down on it, again, I have assignments and exercises. And if I double click on assignments, I have the folders that I created. I'm going to be using this structure to save my programs to. Okay, so let's come back to our book. So now I want to show you her website, because I want to talk about installing, and we need to talk about installing the required software for this book. And by the way, this book, you can acquire it in 3 different ways. Before I start talking about the installation of the software, you can acquire the book by going to our bookstore and getting the book there. You can get it from them online or just walk in. You can go ahead and get it from Amazon. Just make sure you get the right one. Match it up on the ISBN number. It's in your syllabus. Or you can go to a website called VitalSource. It's www.vitalsource.com and get a PDF. And that's the fastest way to get the book. You don't have to walk into a store or wait 2 days to get your book. I mean, you get your book in 2 days if you have Amazon Prime, right? So if you don't want to wait that long, you can go ahead and get it from VitalSource. Again, that's www.vitalsource.com. Let's go ahead and look at the author's website. It's http://faculty.edu/tdaily/book4. So here it is. This is her website for her book. Let's just look at it a little bit here. Notice how it's learning Java through Alice. It's the 4th edition. Here's the ISBN number. It's the same one that's on your syllabus. And she tells you a little bit about her approach for this book and tells you all the data files. If you want them, you can click on this and acquire them. What are these little data files? They're things like, you know, she wants you to create an Alice project and she wants a song to play in the background, a particular song. So in order to have that song in your project, you'll get it from clicking on this link. It's zipped or compressed. You'll have to go ahead and uncompress it and put it on your computer. She also provides PowerPoint slides by chapter. If you want them all downloaded to your computer, just click on slides.zip and you'll get them all downloaded to your computer. Now, if you do order your book and it takes some time to get here, like you don't have Amazon Prime, she does provide you with the first couple of chapters free by just clicking on this little link here. So you should be able to start working on your assignments and exercises as soon as possible, or you can start working on them as soon as possible, you know, until your book arrives. Now, all books have some kind of errata, errors in them. She has a link right here where you can click and correct your book. And she says, if you notice any other kind of errors, please send them to me or to her, right? So you'll click on this little link and send her what you may think of is an error. Okay, so that's everything in text resources. As if you click on course software, This is where she tells you how to go ahead and get the software that you need. Let me go over the other ones real fast, the other tabs on here. Student work is just little simple demos of, some Alice projects that others have done, right? Then we have meet the authors. So here they are. They have hats on. This is in the back of your book, right? They're really not from Texas, but they're very, very nice. And I thought I'd show this to you, show you their smiling faces. So let's go back to course software. So we're gonna be getting this software, and there are some very specific instructions, and you gotta follow the instructions that she has. Why? Well, because there's different versions of Alice. There's different versions of NetBeans. There's, and if you install the wrong one, you're not gonna match up with the book, or even worse, you're not gonna be able to open up your projects on another computer that has a different version. So we have to all match up. That's the theme. So the idea is this. There's instructions for Windows. There's instructions for the Mac. There aren't any instructions for Linux, because if you can run on Linux, you probably don't need instructions. So, by the way, I co-wrote these instructions, with Jabring. So let's go ahead and look at the Windows ones first and show you the level of detail that you need to be concerned with. So here it is. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to install the Java NetBeans bundle. And here are the instructions. And these instructions are as specific as possible. The first thing she wants you to do is find out whether you have a 32-bit or a 64-bit version of Windows 10. And the reason for that is, so that you can get the right download. Now, it's really rare that that you would have a 32-bit version of Windows, but it's still possible. Okay. And to get the software, you're going to click on this little link here. You're going to have to accept the license agreement and then download it. And it may take some time, right? And after you download it, then you're going to be ready to install Alice. So this is the JDK and NetBeans bundle. Let me go ahead and click on it to show you what I'm talking about here. Now, a lot of people, they just forget this see this little radio button here? Why would they have decline? So you're going to go ahead and accept this, and then you're going to go ahead and choose, whether you have the 32-bit or the 64-bit Windows. All right. So go ahead and then click on the link, download the software, double click on it, and just answer the questions as you go through it. Okay. That's how you'll install the first thing. After you finish that, clicking the back button here, then you will go ahead and install Alice. Now, the Alice that you need, I said here, is Alice 3.5.0. Now, if the website ends up getting a newer one, you'll probably have to go into the archive and get that, and that may change. It happens. They don't let us know when this is going to happen. So we want to make sure that we're going to get Alice 3.5.0. So we're going to go ahead and then click on this little link, and she walks you through it here. Like, say, for example, you need to know whether you're on a Windows 64 or Windows 32. Right? And then you'll just click on that link and get the installer and download it. Now, their website changes a little bit, so we'll have to, let's go ahead and see what they're up to see if we can find this downloads link. All right. So I had to scroll down to see it, didn't I? So if I have 64-bit, I can go ahead and click right here for Windows, right? We're still talking about Windows. We'll talk about the Mac, but the instructions are parallel for the Mac, which except you're clicking on a different link. So let's go ahead and click on this one, and then you're just going to go ahead and run it. Okay, it's as easy as that. This website This Alice website has a lot of neat information. I invite you to spend some time there. I'm not going to install it right now because it's already installed. So after you install Alice, then we're going to go ahead and get the NetBeans plugin for Alice. Now this one's a little bit more involved as to how to install it. So after you click on this link, you're going to come over here to the NetBeans plugin for Alice. And then you're going to have to, I would highly recommend having this open on another screen or printing it because it's pretty elaborate. You know, you're going to have to verify that you downloaded the plugin. You're going to open up the File Explorer and look at your downloads folder. And it's a file that ends in NBM. Okay, so don't open it. Okay, so once you know that you have it, you're going to go ahead and open up NetBeans, and then you're going to go to Tools from the menu, click on Plugins, on the Downloads tab. Okay, click on the Downloads tab, and then click the Add Plugins button. You'll locate the Alice NetBeans plugin file. You'll have to navigate to your Downloads folder, right? And select it, click on Open, and then Install. See how I did that right here? Selected it. Or actually, I didn't do that. That's not this one. After you've installed it, when you start NetBeans up and go File, New Project, you will see, this is what I meant to say, you will see Java project from existing NetBeans project. Okay? That's when you'll know whether you installed this third part right. Okay. All right. So coming back to the website, now the installations for the Mac. They're very similar. It's the same 3 steps, but you're clicking on different buttons. And, you know, when I clicked on that, it opened up on a different tab. For the Mac OS, again, we're going to want Alice 3.50. And you're going to have to go and get the bundle first. Choose the Mac one, right? After you go ahead and do that, you'll have to install the bundle, and I provide you with the steps on how to do that on the Mac. Yeah, I have a Mac and a PC. So these are the screenshots of my experience. And I talk a little bit about, how to launch NetBeans from Spotlight. Then I talk about step 2, installing the Alice programming environment. So if you remember before, we clicked on Windows because we had a Windows machine, right? Now we're going to click on Mac to install Alice. And then lastly, the steps are exactly the same for NetBeans and for the plugin for Alice, where you'll get the plugin and go through the same little steps that we had before. You'll know you did it right is when you go ahead and start NetBeans up and go File, New Project, and you'll see that you have a Java project from existing Alice project. Okay. Well, that's pretty much the chapter. I promised you I was going to do a little quick, a demo of the products that we're going to be using. I promise we'll go over them in much more detail. We're going to segregate our discussion to Alice in chapter 0 as much as possible, and then Java in chapter 1 as much as possible. And then from then on, every chapter will have blended topics of Alice and Java. Okay, so let me go ahead and close all this, and let me go ahead and launch. I'm going to go ahead and launch Alice. So when I launch Alice, I have this select project dialog. For right now, I'm just going to select grass and OK. And then before I go and do anything, I'm going to go ahead and show you the interface. So you have a menu at the top. You should click on Help and go to About. And from here, we see that I am running Alice 3.5.0. You want to verify that that is what you have. before we go anywhere. And of course, Alice is dedicated to Randy. It's Alice is constructed based upon Alice in Wonderland, but it is dedicated to Randy. He wrote a very important book that I highly recommend that everybody read. It's called The Last Lecture. If you want, you can just go on YouTube, and do a search for The Last Lecture. Okay, so for right now, I'm going to do something very, very easy. I'm going to go into Setup Scene, and I'm going to go ahead and click on Bipeds, and I'm going to go ahead and put in an alien and drop it right into the middle there, accept the default name, object name, clicking OK. Then I'm going to go ahead and click on Edit Code. That brings us back to the code window. So typically the way you do an Alice project is you'll work on the interface, the graphical interface first, and then you'll work on the code here. For example, now that I have this alien object selected, I can go ahead and click and drag the same method and put it onto the code window and release. Then I can go into Custom and type in what I want him to say. Clicking on OK. So here's the line of code. I can add more details, such as, for example, if I want this to last a little bit longer on the screen so I can read it, I can do that. So then when I click on Run, he says, hola, very good. Closing it. So that's about as far as I want to go for right now. I do want to talk about saving. So in Alice, we have to actually save, like a word processor. We have to actually go File, Save. If you try and exit, it'll ask you, hey, do you want to save, right? So you might as well just go ahead and go File and then Save. And I'm going to go ahead and save this on the desktop. The default location, though, in case well, let's just go ahead and let's save it to the default location for right now. And then I usually like to tell you the truth, I usually like to save my files to the desktop, but let's just go ahead and drop it right there in the default location. I'll show you where that is in just a minute. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and call it First, because it's like my first, let's call it First Alice, right? Or First Alien. And notice how I start with a capital letter because the name of the project, because the name of the class. It's a little habit that we want to get stuck into, especially when we get into Java. So for right now, I'm just going to click on Save. All right, and close. So how do I find this? We're going to go open up your File Explorer, right? And we're going to go ahead and go to Documents. I didn't realize I was going to show you so many things. And then we're going to go to Alice 3. And then here, there's a folder called My Projects. And there, my friends, here is the file. Now, I have created a file association between this. So when I double click on it, it'll open up in Alice. This may not happen to you if you don't install the software correctly, in which case, you'll have to just open up Alice and go File, Open. In fact, I probably should do that right now. If I double click on this, it'll open up because I've created a file association with Alice, So that may not, be the case with you, right? So let me go ahead and close that. Let me go ahead and also alert you to the fact that every time I create an Alice project, an Alice project ends in A3P. It creates a folder called by that same name with a BAK extension. We're not going to be using that in this class. Do not be concerned with this at this point in time. Okay, so I'm going to click on Close. I'm going to start Alice up again. And in this particular case, in this case, it opens up the Select Project dialog. One of the things that you could do here is just go to Recent and launch it from here. But let's say that you have it on your flash drive. So I'm going to go to File System, and then I'll have to go to Browse, and it opens up. It opens up by default to the My Projects folder, where I showed you I navigated to where that was. Select it, and then Open. Okay. So there's my file open. All right. So let's go ahead and create a little Java file. And I realize both of these are real fast demos. I promise you chapter 0 and chapter 1 will go through those in much more detail. So let's just start NetBeans up. And I'm not going to do any kind of customization with this. I'm just going to start create a very simple project. So I'm going to go File, New Project. Notice how I have Java project from X16 Alice project. That's because I've installed the plugin correctly. However, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm going to go create a Java application. So I'm selecting Java application next. Then I'm going to call it First Java. And I'm going to accept the defaults. Even though we're going to be changing these defaults later on. Okay, so do not be concerned with anything else that we've got here, right? On here, I think I have the defaults on here. So I'm going to have to go to the main method, and inside the main method, press enter, and I'll type in my first line of code. And a shortcut for that is just typing in SOUT, press the tab key. It writes everything that you need, and all I have to do is just put in the string. This is the exact string that I said before. I promise I will explain what all of this code means later. To run it, we'll click on the run button, and there it is, Hola, down below. All right. Closing this. So where's my project? Let's see if we can let's see if we can find it. So we're going to go ahead and go to Documents, and in Documents, got the NetBeans projects folders, and in here, I've got the folder that I created here called First Java. Now we typically don't drill down. Well, a beginner will not drill down this particular way. What you will do, instead of looking for your Java file, which is in the source folder, right, with a JAVA extension, we won't be doing that in this class. We'll be starting NetBeans, and from NetBeans, if it is your computer, you'll be able to see it right there. But let's say that it's closed, or you're on someone else's computer and you have to navigate to where it is. And by the way, when you see the file there, you just double click on it, you'll see the code there. But let's say that we want to navigate to this project. I'm going to right mouse click on here, and I'm going to go ahead and click close. So sort of like pretend we're on somebody else's computer, and I got to navigate to where my project is. A project consists of many files. So I'm going to go ahead and click on open, and I'm then going to navigate to where my project is. Remember, it's in Documents, and in Documents we've got the NetBeans projects folder. And look at these icons here. These icons here signify that this is a Java project or a NetBeans project. I'm going to select my project and then click Open Project, and I've got my code back where I can go ahead and run it again. And that's pretty much the end of my little demonstration today, and going over I wanted to go over the prefix of your book, and I wanted to show you the link that you would need to go ahead and install the software. Remember, the best thing you can do is just go ahead and follow the directions that she specifies on her website. Get the book as soon as possible. Remember, you can get it from our bookstore, from Amazon, or from Vital Source, any way you want. And while you're waiting for your book, you can use the first 2 chapters, I believe, are available on her website. But other than that, I don't have anything else for you. My name is Professor Benavides. Thank you very much.